Fox 8 News starts now.
I think many people in this community expected that charges would be brought by the federal government. I don't believe that most people suspected that the charges would be this broad.
A former St. Tammany Parish District Attorney is indicted of using his campaign fund to pay for flowers, dinners, and payments to his son. Good evening, I'm Lee Zur.
And I'm Kim Holden. Walter Reed and his son Stephen have their first court appearance 2 Mondays from now to face charges in an 18-count indictment.
Yeah, that federal indictment was handed up today, detailing the downfall of a dynasty. It comes after a months-long joint investigation between Fox 8 News and NOLA.com, the Times Picayune.
Walter Reed's 2012 campaign finance report includes this payment, $614 to Flowers and Fancies, what he labeled a promotional expense. The 18-count federal indictment says that was unrelated to the campaign of Walter Reed. Instead, the payment went to floral arrangements sent to his daughter in Person A with a message that stated, "To my rodeo girl from a secret admirer from Camp J."
As you look through here, I don't see any kickback or bribery schemes. This is about campaign funds.
Reed's attorney, Rick Simmons, says they'll fight the charges. The indictment lays out a scheme where the federal government alleges Reed spent at least $100,000 from his campaign fund on personal expenses unrelated to his campaign.
I guess our reason for having a press conference is only to ask the public to step back and wait and not make conclusions based on this media wave that has hit us before. We will defend the facts of the case.
A grand jury also indicted Reed's son, Stephen. The indictment alleges Walter Reed hired a Company A to produce entertainment for a fundraiser. The government says Reed instructed the company to inflate its costs and funnel campaign monies to his son, Stephen Reed.
It's important the public remember that campaign funds are not public funds. It's a matter whether your supporters have given and contributed to you.
And in another case, Reed's campaign report shows he spent $4,700 with the First Pentecostal Church in Bogalusa for a campaign function. The indictment says the money actually went to the First Pentecostal Church in North Little Rock, Arkansas, and was a dinner, a gathering for religious figures to recruit them to refer private legal work to him and his law firm.
We are not up here. We are not up here for the glitz and glamour, the cameras, or for the sport of bringing down another public official.
U.S. Attorney Kenneth Polite made a statement this afternoon but didn't answer questions from reporters.
The lack of accountability, the lack of checks and balances, the lack of regulation of outside business activities, factors that continue to rear their ugly head over and over and over again in these public corruption cases.
Reed will make his first court appearance next month, May 4th. His attorney says this could end up being a long fight, a public corruption case that could go to trial. For 30 years, Walter Reed put criminals in jail. Now he's on the other side of the table, fighting for his freedom.
The indictment is merely an allegation on a piece of paper. Every piece of paper has two sides, and you'll hear our side later on.
Voters elected Walter Reed as district attorney for the 22nd Judicial District in 1984. In the midst of our investigations, Reed announced he wouldn't seek re-election last July. Just a month later, the legislative auditor launched an audit of Reed's office after the St. Tammany Parish president demanded a state investigation. Reed also requested one. That state audit is not yet complete.
While the indictment does charge Walter Reed's son, Stephen, with taking kickbacks, former U.S. Attorney Harry Rosenberg says it may be part of a strategy by prosecutors in the case.
I think that the interesting question will be one of the issues you've raised, which is whether there'll be any potential for plea discussions to protect Stephen Reed, his young son, from any lengthy jail sentence. You see time and time again relatives, whether spouses or children, being the ones who hopefully are going to get the benefit of a plea agreement reached by one of the other relatives in the case. It's not necessarily all strategic because, according to the indictment, Stephen Reed got personal benefits.
St. Tammany Parish President Pat Brister reacted to Reed's indictment, saying she hopes this will be the community's history and not their future.
Yeah, Kimberly Kurth has more reaction from the parish leaders and neighbors.
Well, neighbors we talked to described the indictment of their former district attorney and his son as embarrassing, even disturbing. And the word spread fast. Once one of the most powerful politicians in Louisiana, now the accused indicted on federal corruption charges. St. Tammany Parish leaders told us the news is disappointing, but they wanted to stress that they're looking to a new generation of elected officials there and a new way of doing things.
Obviously, we're very disappointed that this has occurred again. Over the last few years, we've had several elected officials that have been indicted in St. Tammany Parish, and it's the old political way, and hopefully this is the end of that.
St. Tammany Parish leaders told us news of the investigation into Reed and now an indictment hasn't been good for their image, but they say they're working hard to move past that and they want to be more transparent. Lee.
All right, Kimberly, the current St. Tammany Parish DA Warren Montgomery reacted to the Reed indictment in a statement today, writing, "The best for our community and my prayer is that he has a speedy and fair trial by an impartial jury. In the meantime, we are continuing to prosecute cases."
Our joint investigation with NOLA.com, the Times-Picayune, also exposed questionable behavior by Reed's brother, Richard. He resigned his position with St. Tammany Hospital shortly after we aired a series of reports about Walter Reed. He was working 40 hours a week as a clerk in the hospital's mailroom, but we uncovered emails that suggested only 20 hours were needed. When emailing about the opening created by Richard Reed's resignation, hospital vice president Gene Holtman wrote, quote, "I would recommend that we make it a 40-hour position just to show Richard's position was needed." Another email about Reed includes notes from a meeting that show a hospital administrator telling another employee, quote, "I know that there is nothing for him to do, but put him on the receiving dock, anything, put him anywhere, pushing a cart, licking stamps, bird watching." Richard Reed has an ongoing sexual battery and kidnapping case that he's fighting. His attorneys asked prosecutors Tuesday to give them notice if they plan to introduce evidence of other crimes when Reed stands trial. The sexual battery and kidnapping charge stems from an incident at a Covington bar last August. That trial is set for June 1st. Reed says he's not guilty.
Find our reporting on Walter Reed, his associates and family members on our website. Look for the Reed Files in our Louisiana Purchase section. That's fox8live.com/Louisiana Purchased. New details surrounding the double murder of a father and son in Metairie.
Deputies found David Pence and his son Nicholas inside their home on Clifford Drive. Ryan Nakhan has more on what investigators are calling execution-style killings.
Tonight, crime scene tape still surrounds this Metairie home wrapped in mystery, as investigators still don't know who walked in just before midnight Wednesday and shot a father and son in cold blood with a shotgun.
I think it's an absolute tragedy that somebody can mow you down just because they want to do it.
Sam Meyer closed his business Thursday in honor of the two men murdered. 25-year-old Nicholas Pence worked at his Myers Hatter store for years. And over those years, Myers has grown close to Nick's father, David, as well.
Unbelievable. Can't believe it. Incomprehensible. So anyway, I don't know. His father was a great guy, too. Swell man and a beautiful, beautiful person. And the world is lost without them. Our loss. And the world's lost, too. The city's lost. I can't say more. I don't know. I'm just going to miss Nick. Terrible.
Jefferson Parish deputies say there was a couple of car burglaries reported last night on Clifford and the surrounding areas. But right now, there is no connection to those burglaries and the double murder that happened at this house. And now, as they try to put the pieces together, a neighborhood is left wondering why.
There's no rhyme or reason for it. There's a lot of whys, and how it, how does it happen? What provokes someone to do that to people like them?
Sam Liljeberg lives right across the street from where the murders happened, and he's struggling with the fact that his friends were taken away from him so tragically and suddenly.
Fortunately, none of us had to go through the ordeal of actually seeing them being removed from the house, but just reading the stories, finding out what happened. To think that that could happen to these nice people that we've known for this many years, it's surreal.
To help with the investigation, deputies are looking through surveillance video belonging to nearby homeowners. And at this time, Kim and Lee, investigators have still not found that murder weapon.
Okay, thanks a lot, Ryan. Police want help finding 2 men after a shooting in Algiers that injured 2 men and a dog. They've issued arrest warrants for Kwame Flemings and Jermaine Quillins. The shooting happened on Hendy Street yesterday after the suspects allegedly got into an argument with one of the victims. Both victims and the dog are expected to survive. If you can help the men, call Crime Stoppers.
The New Orleans City Council bans large trucks from rumbling through the French Quarter. Kind of. Trucks longer than 36 feet can no longer travel through the quarter unless they pay for a special permit. Quarter residents have long complained that the oversized trucks damage historic buildings while trying to maneuver through the quarter's narrow streets. And despite the loophole, residents say they are happy with today's ruling.
Some police on the North Shore will have a video record of every call they go on. The Covington police chief announced today that all officers in the department are now equipped with body cameras. He says the department is the first in the parish to have the technology.
A St. Charles Parish deputy who was shot 3 times last week says he is honored by the outpouring of support.
I just can't, I couldn't imagine that there would be this much support.
Corporal Bert Hazeltine spoke publicly today for the first time since he was ambushed while working a traffic detail last week. Hundreds of people attended a fundraiser in his honor. While many say it's a miracle he's alive, his wife says she couldn't believe the strength he had when she rushed to his side at the hospital.
He smiled at me, he wanted to kiss me, pulling me down to kiss me. I'm like, whoa, I'm like trying to kind of absorb it all.
I've got limited, limited use. Limited strength is a better word, so it's kind of awkward moving around at times.
Hazeltine says he looks forward to returning to active duty. Meanwhile, the man accused of shooting Hazeltine remains in jail on a $1 million bond for attempted first-degree murder. Investigators say they believe 58-year-old John DeVilliers became enraged after Hazeltine refused to stop traffic for him on Highway 90.
Real estate heir Robert Durst no longer faces state gun charges in Louisiana. The Orleans Parish DA decided to drop the charges. That move clears the way for a federal case against Durst on similar charges to move forward. Durst also faces a murder charge in California. A woman says 4 men raped her inside of her home just blocks from Oxnard Baptist Medical Center. The 56-year-old victim told police the guys entered the Clara Street home through an unlocked door just before 6 yesterday evening. She said she doesn't know her attackers.
You won't see a new law forcing drivers to use hands-free cell phone technology on the Causeway Bridge anytime soon. Today, Mandeville State Rep Tim Burns withdrew his bill that would have required hands-free use of cell phones on the bridge. He says he withdrew it because the Causeway Commission is concerned about how to enforce the law. State law already prohibits texting while driving. We've seen lots of rain this month, and that means lots of standing water where mosquitoes can breed. Mosquito control workers are already treating area ditches, but state health officials warn about the risk of West Nile virus.
West Nile virus is just, it's a part of, the risk every summer. So, I think you should always go into the summer, thinking that that's going to be a possibility.
Dr. Kristen Healy says for 80% of people who get infected with the virus, nothing happens. Fewer than 20% will develop flu-like symptoms, and only 1% will suffer from some type of serious neurological disease, which can turn fatal. To protect yourself, use repellent containing DEET, wear long-sleeve clothing if you're going to be outside for long periods of time, and remove standing water around your home. A dire warning about the threat to the country's electrical system that could leave the U.S. with no power for more than a year.
They could, in concept, conceivably, render the United States helpless.
No working lights, no internet, no working phones, no transportation, no food. Tomorrow night, the big worry about the vulnerability of the electrical grid, and that includes Louisiana. Hear who says you should be worried. Catch that story tomorrow at 10 p.m. on Fox 8 News.
Louisiana's Secretary of State calls attention to a group of public officials who get hefty pay raises every year and whose jobs are basically guaranteed for life. The problem is the law allows it. But Tom Shedler says if the legislature doesn't fix the problem, he's going to drop what he calls the real nuclear bomb. Here's our new investigation holding the vote.
Forget all the hogwash you've heard from these people.
Tough talk.
And I ain't backing down from this one.
From a politician.
I'm not scared of them. And you shouldn't be either.
About public officials most Louisianians don't even know. Do you know who your registrar of voter is?
What?
Every parish has a registrar of voters, but it's hard to find someone who can name one of them.
I can't tell you.
Do you know who your registrar of voter is?
Is it
Guggenheim.
No, I don't.
No clue?
No clue.
In Jefferson Parish, it's Dennis DeMarco. St. Tammany, Dwayne Wall. In Orleans, Sandra Wilson. Registrar of voters do just that, register people to vote. Their other main job is to run early voting for elections, and those duties earn some six-figure salaries. Last year, Dwayne Wall in St. Tammany made $122,000. Sandra Wilson in Orleans, $126,000. And in Jefferson Parish, Dennis DeMarco made $161,000. The state's highest paid register of voter, or ROV, is in Shreveport, Caddo Parish. Ernie Roberson earned $183,000. That's more than the governor, mayor of Shreveport, or even the Caddo Parish sheriff.
Some of these ROVs make some pretty significant money.
They do make much more money than I make. I make $115,000 by Constitution, like every statewide elected official.
Tom Shedler is the state's chief election officer. He oversees all elections in the state. As Secretary of State, Shedler can be voted out of office every 4 years, but a registrar of voters is not elected. Instead, each individual parish board of election supervisors has appointing authority, and once appointed, the law makes it difficult to remove them from the job. As Shedler puts it, they're appointed for life.
It would be like you could never be fired, and your producer, or you can imagine the difficulty there.
I don't think I like any lifetime appointments. Even the president is not set for life.
Other than like a tenured professor, is there any other position that's a lifetime appointment?
I do not, other than a federal judge, and that's in a federal program. I just do not know of anything in well, I know there's nothing in state government other than this tenured professor issue that you bring up, but there's just nothing.
At work, you may get evaluated by your boss, but registrar of voters get to evaluate themselves. They fill out this sheet. Each year, each one is given themselves the highest score, excellent. And as long as they receive that excellent score, they get a pay raise. The law allows for 2 pay raises every year, a total of 7% increase in pay per year.
If they give themselves an excellent, they get a raise.
Correct.
So why would anyone not give themselves an
Correct.
excellent?
I mean, we all would say to our bosses that we're doing a great job and we should be paid more money. I mean, that's human nature. I'd say the same thing about myself.
But is that good for taxpayers?
Not good for taxpayers at all. And I think that's the point. And I know of no other system in state government that allows that.
The state pays part of their salary. Individual parishes handle the rest.
Something's got to be done with this.
Secretary of State Tom Shedler has been the lone voice for reform. In March, he told a legislative committee it's time to change the law.
It needs to be straightened up. And I know if you go back in history, you register a voter, they're going to... I'm not scared of them. And you shouldn't be either.
During elections, the registrar of voters can earn overtime. So for the ROV in Caddo Parish, who made $184,000 last year, earned $5,300 of that in overtime.
And there are not many people with a salary of $177,000 a year making overtime, too.
Not in the state, not in this state, not probably in a lot of states.
According to an old copy of the state constitution, the clerks of court in each parish used to handle voter registration, but that changed in 1921 when the state created these 64 ROVs.
A law from 1921 with very little amendments and changes to it. I think it's time to change that.
Shedler has been able to toughen some oversight. When he wants to fight one of those evaluations, appeals used to go to a committee made up of ROVs. Now Shedler has some appointees.
We have a select few that are protecting the goal line, and I understand it. Maybe if I was one, I'd be protecting it too. But there are people that are saying, Tom, you're doing the right thing, this is wrong, keep it up.
Shedler says many actually do a good job.
Even some of my soothsayers, I think, do a good job.
But it's the lifetime appointment, the self-evaluation, and built-in pay raises that have him fighting.
This is unheard of in the private sector.
Cameron Parish has a population of 6,700. Their ROV makes $76,000 a year, $11.50 a resident. In Tensas Parish, the ROV makes $80,000, $16 per resident.
So if you look at some of these small rural parishes, not a bad living.
Shedler says it's up to the legislature to crack down.
You got to do this globally. I think people need to sit down in a study committee for a year. Cooler heads have to prevail. We need to bring everybody to the table and try to come up with some new voter registration law and the process and procedure how it should be handled going forward.
Because the way the law is written now, many of these ROVs have a six-figure salary guaranteed. When they leave the job, many will get that same six-figure compensation in retirement until they die. It's why Tom Shedler calls them the last bastions in Louisiana politics.
Think about it. Appointed for life, 2 raises a year. We don't know. You know, we just like we had, what, 7 assessors in New Orleans for decades? I mean, to a certain degree, it is.
The head of the Registrar of Voters Association told us they would not comment on our story. It's also important to note some of the annual pay raises are capped after 12 years of the job. Other pay raises they receive are not.
Okay, so my biggest question, and I asked you during the story, what is Shedler's motive? Because he has to work with these.
Yeah, and he works with them. His office works directly with them. But he, you know, a lot of the money that goes to the Registrar of Voters goes through his office, so he feels responsible for that money. He wants, you know, and he feels responsible to know how that money's being spent. There's no oversight as far as if these Registrar of Voters are working. Are they working a 40-hour week? How do we know that? What are they using their money for? There's just a lot of uncertainty there, so he wants to see a lot of this law globally addressed, and it starts with the legislature. That's why he was pleading to them in that hearing.
All right.
All right, the nation's top 2 teams in college baseball met in Baton Rouge tonight.
Plus, how wet conditions at the Zurich Classic affected scores on the links. Sports is ahead.
Wet conditions could get wetter. We have a new model run to show you just ahead on Fox 8 at 10. Hi, gang. We're back tonight, and we have a tough challenge ahead of us. There's that old southwest southern jet stream. This is called a subtropical jet that is coming in tonight and picking out disturbances in that. Very difficult. Here's the additional challenge. There's a upper low along the west coast, and this deep trough is going to kick out and head towards the northeast. Usually, when you get the split between the southern flow and this trough coming by, that's where you're going to find some severe weather breakout. But it's those little disturbances that are very hard to track. Now, there's obviously one. Watch it tonight. It'll come up, and there it is right there. This cluster is going to be approaching Houston at daybreak. Question is, when is it going to get here? We're all quiet tonight. There it is, right at daybreak. Not our problem tonight. But here we go to about just after Jazz Fest opens. Okay, but here it comes. Boop, rumbles right over us. So tomorrow afternoon could be stormy if this model is correct. It's a new model run, just came in. And then this goes rumbling by so that we dry out again until we get towards Saturday, not morning, I mean at daybreak. Daybreak we're okay, but boom. Gah! No, we got too many things going on. And finally, it looks like we dry out for Saturday night and Sunday. Going to be a tough forecast. High today was 84, morning low was 64. We're at 76 right now. A couple spots got over an inch of rain today. And tomorrow, if you buy into that cluster, we could get another inch or so. We don't need it. East winds very light tonight, and we have a steady barometer. Actually, it's come up a little bit. It's come up a little bit. But the showers are gone tonight. No issues. The issues will come during the day tomorrow. Keep up on the weather. Slight risk for severe storms. We'll have many dry hours as highs ought to get up into the 80s. And as we look into your weekend, it looks like Sunday is the drier day. Next week, it's rainy again. We're going to end up in probably the top 5 wettest Aprils on record here by the time we're done with this month. Your Delta World Tire forecast at 833-0000.
Thank you, Bob.
All right. Jazz Fest 2015 kicks off tomorrow.
From transportation to headliners, what you need to know before heading to the fairgrounds.
There's a number 1 versus 2 SEC showdown on the diamond over the next 3 days, and LSU baseball got off to a great and dramatic start tonight in this series against Texas A&M. Up in Baton Rouge, 2 of the best teams in the conference and the nation squaring off. Jared Poche on the hill for the top-ranked Tigers. Poche, the former Lutcher standout, throwing 7 strong innings, giving up just 1 earned run. Great defense as well. Jared Foster, the diving stop for the out. LSU led 3-2 in the 9th. A&M tied it, and then time for a walk-off. Danny Zardone chops that pitch down the left field line. Foster scores, and LSU wins it in front of more than 10,000 screaming fans. Tigers take it 4-3. Game 2 is tomorrow night. Back here in New Orleans, TPC, Louisiana, down in Avondale. A little rain delayed the Zurich Classic for about an hour, but the conditions were friendly to the golfers. Defending champ Sung-Yul No pitching this approach onto the green. He finished an even par. LSU Tiger David Toms also shooting even, 72 on the day, just shy here on the long birdie putt. Everyone was chasing Boo Weekley, who started early and played pretty well, spent the day on top of the leaderboard. He shot 8 under. Zimbabwe's Brendan de Jong surged late in the afternoon to meet Weekley atop the field at 8 under. Canadian David Hearn alone in 3rd. There are a few golfers tied for 4th place. And just an update from Game 3 at the Smoothie King Center. Pelicans and the Warriors. Pelicans shot pretty lights out in the first half, led 63-52. Currently 85-69. Pelicans need this to make it 2-1 in the series and have a Game 4 coming our way Saturday night here at home.
Very nice.
All
Thanks,
right.
Chad.
We have a few reminders so that your trip to Jazz Fest this weekend doesn't cost you any extra.
Yeah, police say they'll be out ticketing anyone who's parked in the neutral ground or on a sidewalk or in a residential area without a permit. If you're concerned about finding parking, you can take the shuttle from the Sheraton Hotel, the Steamboat Natchez Dock, or City Park. The round-trip ticket costs $19.
Friday's headliners include country artist and American Idol judge Keith Urban and alternative band Wilco.
And we have everything you need to know before heading to Jazz Fest on our free festival app. Just search Fox 8 Fun or Fox 8 Fest in your app store. That is the news for now. Thanks for watching.
Good night. We'll see you tomorrow. Our next newscast starts at 4:30 in the morning.
With the Fox 8 mobile app, you'll never be without Fox 8 News. Sign up at fox8live.com for text and email alerts during breaking news and weather. Sponsored by Egan Home Health and Hospice, improving and maintaining your health, independence, and quality of life at home. Fox 8 is proudly locally owned. You can take Fox 8 News with you everywhere. Get